Hey guys, whoever's here, please confirm if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Great. Nice. Alright, so we'll do our usual setup. We'll do like 10 to 15 minutes of questions, then we'll get into the full card breakdown. Near the end of the questions, I also have a few questions for you guys about like the future of my streaming and such, because if I'm going to stream with any more frequency, I'm going to have to make some more changes, but we'll get into that. So if you guys have any questions not directly related to analysis of these fights, go ahead. Charles said in a DC interview he didn't train for a month before the Chandler fight because of his knee injury. Yeah, and apparently he had both knees injured in that fight as well. So I don't think it's necessarily a good reflection of how he's going to look this Saturday. John versus Ilya. See, okay, a lot of people are just going to call me a John Silva glazer. I genuinely think he may end up being the greatest featherweight of all time. The way that he's able to punish reads so quickly is absolutely wild. Like, he sees something once and then immediately knows how to perfectly punish it. So I think that he could have taken advantage of the fact that Ilya is very hittable when he throws and landed a straight as Ilya is loading up on an overhand or hook. How do I think Aspinall versus Gane will go? So, on the feet, I do think that Gane actually has a slight edge. I think Aspinall would probably just take him down and choke him out, though, because even last fight against Volkov, Gane didn't really seem to improve dramatically with his ground game. So he could, I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't know if there's a way he can catch up, essentially. And even on the feet, though he might have the technical edge, he doesn't really have the power to just chin Aspinall. So, like, I feel like Aspinall is just going to be like minus 500. It's going to be another stupid fight, but it is what it is. As Tism gives some clairvoyance, pretty much. How do I see the main event going this Saturday? I'll get to that. For any fight related to this event, I'll get to that in the full analysis. How do I think Jones versus Francis would have wins? Realistically, Jones probably just gets him down and finishes him. Like, Francis didn't have the best ground game. He was able to stuff a few takedowns for an older Stipe, yes, but his cardio also wouldn't have held up unless he could finish Jones early. So it would have been like an exaggerated version of Jones versus Aspinall, where Francis would have had like one round to like swing wildly and try to get a finish, and then if not, he would have just gotten choked out. I think Charles could catch Ilya with a long, straight left hook. We'll get into that stuff. I do have a lot to say on that fight. Only reason people are picking Diego Lopez is because of him being a higher ranked guy based on Ortega win. Yeah, Ortega also does not seem like the same guy anymore. I was rewatching that fight. I just have no idea what he was doing. Are we entering the era of these counter grapplers? It's possible. We were definitely in the grappler era again for a while, so I do think that we will probably hit another era of strikers who just know how to efficiently threaten submissions and scramble out. What about Tom versus Aspinall? I think Aspinall would have also just taken him down. I don't think that he was going to risk a stand-up with Francis, and I think that with Aspinall's just like first-round explosiveness, he could counteract the first-round explosiveness of Ngannou with slightly better form, get him down and probably finish him there. How does JDM versus Islam go? So, the more I think about it, the more of an edge JDM has, because Islam's stand-up is really not nuanced at all. Like, he's very reliant on the lead hook repetitively. The way he backs up is very predictable. The way he slips is very predictable. He does have more power than Bilal. I know a lot of people are saying that like Islam doesn't have that much power. I don't really believe that. When he does connect clean, he can hurt people. But I also don't think he's gonna like drop JDM immensely easily or anything. And he's not gonna get a takedown early in all likelihood because JDM knows not to back up to the fence. So I do think there is a reasonable shot that JDM chins him in like round 2 or 3. Volk took Ortega's chin. Yeah, I think between the Volk fight and the Holloway fight, it was just not good. DDP Chimaev predictions. I think that DDP is going to make him work for a few rounds and then eventually finish him. just the game planning on DDP, I think, against someone who's so, what would be the word, predictable, I guess, as Chimaev, I think it's going to be very easy for him to game plan around it. How do you think Azamat doing against Yuri, Khalil, Alex, and Big Hank? So I think that Azamat probably beats Khalil, maybe finishes him. It might go to decision. Over 3 rounds, probably goes to decision. Over 5 rounds, he probably gets a finish. I don't think he beats any of the others, but like, Ankalaev would be an interesting fight, because I think it would end up being purely stand-up. I just think that Azamat doesn't have the cardio to really beat Ankalaev over 5 rounds. If he was younger and had a better gas tank, it might be a different story. The grapplers figured out the backfoot kickboxers by backing them up to the cage, but are now... Yeah, so now that we have a lot more pressure strikers, they are doing better against the grapplers. His shots looked like they had 0 sting in the Poirier fight. That was mainly, though, because he wasn't really landing clean. Like, he was scoring, yes, but he wasn't really hitting Poirier. He was just kind of annoying him. Outside of Charles, who has he hurt or dropped, though, he has a few knockdowns. I always forget who they are on. And then even outside the knockdowns, there have been a few times where he has clearly stung people in fights. And again, I'm not saying like Islam has crazy power. He just doesn't have like Bilal pillow hands power is what I'm saying. Like, you don't want to just eat shots from Islam. Islam said he would move back down to lightweight after his fight with JDM, assuming John Silva becomes champ at featherweight. Once double champ, how do you see Silva versus Islam going? That's an interesting one. I think the predictability, again, would make it a decent matchup for Silva, but Silva may end up in a weird situation where he's waiting a bit too much in that matchup. My biggest concern there would be because Islam's not going to give him like a stupid number of reads early, that he just gets a bit too far behind in the fight. Probably fine as long as he gets the finish eventually, but it may get close. It may be like, oh, he's behind 2 or 3 rounds and he has to get like a 4th or 5th round finish rather. Just curious, how's the format of your stream right now? I love your content. These streams are awesome whenever you do it. Thanks. So right now the format of the streams is I just do like 15 minutes of questions, then I do the full fight breakdowns for everything on the card, then I do some more questions. Sometimes if someone sends in sparring footage, we look at that near the end and then we wrap up there. I am looking to potentially start changing that, which is something I'm going to ask you guys in around 3 minutes. I just want to wait until the most people are here so I get the best feedback possible. I really want to see John versus Ilya. Same, it would be very fun. Jones retired. He knew he didn't stand a chance against Tom, never did. The physical advantage Tom had was too much for John. I still have the unpopular take that I think John would have won that fight. But the fact that he seemingly thinks he wouldn't have since he ran, I mean, obviously that's not exactly convincing in itself. I just think that John would have had the ability to survive a few rounds when he knew that he wasn't going to have to engage early, and then I couldn't see Tom's cardio holding up well in the later rounds. Maybe Tom caught him early. That was, of course, Tom's best chance. But Jones was really good at not getting caught completely clean, so I just would have had a hard time seeing Tom put him out cold in the first 2 rounds. Why do you think Jamal Hill has regressed so much? I think more regression actually happened after the Yuri fight than from the injury. I think after the Yuri fight, it felt like he started getting afraid to throw. Because Yuri was countering him so effectively, it felt like against Roundtree, he just did not want to risk getting hit. So what are the gambling picks? We'll get into that. Charles, unironically, the best lightweight ever if he beats Ilya. No one has better wins. I think the fact that Charles has multiple losses will always prevent him from being in that category, but Charles is definitely underrated in my opinion. John Jones versus Yuri. I think that Yuri being a little erratic might cause himself some problems in that fight because he would give up the takedowns. It is what it is. Like, he would of course always have a chance because he has the power to put out John, and he has better cardio than someone like Tom most likely. But I think he would probably give up the takedowns a little too easily. How would Arman versus Charles 2 go? Well, I think that over 5 rounds, Charles would have won the first time. If Charles is the same guy, I think he still can win. I honestly thought Charles won the first time. I thought that the striking in round 3 was pretty equal, and given the submission threat at the end, I thought he pretty clearly won it, but oh well. I think Yuri is the best contender to beat Ankalaev. Thoughts? Yeah, I think that Yuri's reckless aggression will do very well against Ankalaev, who kind of needs a more measured pace. Ankalaev is someone who really gets caught in chaos a lot. Like in Thiago Santos, when Santos just started swinging wildly, he dropped Ankalaev. And then against Jan would always catch him like near the end of exchanges. So I do think Yuri is a good contender to knock out Ankalaev. Alright, so since it's been 10 minutes, I do want to ask you guys something about this stream. I have been considering trying to stream more frequently. Of course, like at my peak, I was only doing one stream a week, and recently I've been doing one stream like once every 3 weeks. So would you guys be interested in me streaming like 3-ish times a week? Because if I was going to stream more frequently, then I would definitely try to upgrade the quality of the stream. Like right now, obviously, I have a very low production value stream. Like I just have like the placeholder image, and then we just look at like the UFC content. So if you guys want more streams, then I can look into upgrading the stuff. We have yes, okay. So I'll definitely have to pull more and make sure it's going to be worth it, but especially if I can start getting the YouTube numbers up a bit more so that we have a reasonable number of concurrent viewers here, then I'll definitely consider doing it. I would watch as much as possible. Oh, glad to hear it. Okay, I'm glad that my content is enjoyable. Could do different kinds of streams too. Yeah, so I do want to do more like both news streams and analysis streams. Like if I can start getting a lot of sparring footage from you guys, I would like to break it down more, because I know a lot of you guys are aspiring fighters and don't really have much like ways to get feedback without it costing a stupid amount of money. Thoughts on Felipe Lima? I think he has a lot of potential, but we'll get into that when I break down that fight. We've got 3 more minutes and we'll start the breakdowns. The first few are going to go quickly also, because we had those like last minute fights get thrown together. Argued on Instagram a few days ago about John Jones being in the top 5 of all time. If people want to put Jones in the top 5 of all time, I honestly can't like say that that is a stupid argument. Like top 5 is reasonable. I think he's been kicked out of the top 3 though. Yes, as long as it doesn't affect the quality of the vids on the channel. Yeah, of course. The long form content, I'm always going to try to make the highest quality possible. How does JDM versus Gary go? I think that Gary will have problems against someone who's both as technical and as measured as JDM. Because JDM has no really clear weakness. Like he can fight on the back foot, he can fight on the front foot. He's fine against the takedown spam. Like Gary does best when there's a clear weakness of his opponent that he can exploit. So with like Cortez, it's like, okay, if we're pushing Cortez back, Cortez can't do anything. So Gary just adapt to do that all fight. So JDM would probably just have a bit of an edge everywhere the entire fight. Do you think John Jones wants to return at some point? Not at this point. I think that he's only getting older. If he wanted to fight Tom, the right time was honestly like a year ago, but now, if anything. Who's the bantamweight GOAT in your opinion? I think, given Merab's finish over O'Malley, I think he is now probably the GOAT. I think that Cruz versus Merab would have been a really fun matchup. Like, much more fun than anyone seems to realize. But in terms of, like who's the GOAT, it is probably Merab now. Just got the request for reviewing the footage, by the way, so if we have time near the end of the stream, I'll do that. How do I see MVP versus Cannonier going? I think the Cannonier, if he needs to, he can just wrestle, so I don't really see how MVP wins that, unless he can get like an early finish. Because, like, worst case for Cannonier, he just takes him down, because MVP has 0 takedown defense. Also, what do you think are the most interesting stylistic matchups at welterweight? I think that Brady versus Gary is the one I'm most confused about, because Brady does have issues that Gary can exploit, but at the same time, if Brady gets him down once, it's probably over. Who do you think is going to win between RDR and Whitaker? I'm leaning Whitaker. I think that RDR is going to have problems against someone who has solid takedown defense and is just better on the feet. Is Hyder Amil a legit contender? I will get to that when I talk about his fight. I do have a lot to say about that one. Jan versus Jones, who wins? So I think there was like a 2-year period in which Jan had a solid chance. The biggest problem for Jan, of course, is if he does get taken down, he just can't work his way back up. I don't know what the deal is, but he just never was able to add that. But there was like a stretch of 2 years where his takedown defense was effectively perfect. So I think in those 2 years, he would have had a solid chance against Jones. Takedown spam from Rob is too OP. Yeah, agreed. Rob is going to be very hard for anyone to beat at this point. RDR is too hittable. Yes, I agree. What do you think about Van versus Royval? We will get to that soon. Don't worry. All right, let's get into the breakdown since it is past 11:15. So, browser. I think the delay this time is worse than it was last time. I'm still trying to figure out how to get the delay to preferably like a second max. I think right now it's like 3 to 4 seconds, but whatever, we'll get into this. So our first fight on International Fight Week is 2 complete nobodies, which is lovely. So I watched a little bit of film on both of them. I didn't get too much time to go too deeply into it. McVey I know a little bit more about because he was supposed to fight Dumas before that got cancelled. So McVey is a very dynamic grappler for this weight class. Like, surprisingly dynamic, to the point he will just jump on Darces out of the most random positions and just chase it. So I kind of think about, like, Tony Ferguson chasing the Darce against Barboza, except at a higher weight class. Very strange to watch. But he does get hit, he's very hittable, and he doesn't really have the nuance of someone with more experience. 6 fights in, he really should not be in the UFC, in my opinion. I think that he would have had a solid chance against Dumas, because Dumas just isn't very technical anywhere. But against anyone who's legitimate in the UFC, McVey is probably not going to do well unless he improves dramatically, in all honesty. Ewert is, I think his nickname is Tank, and he basically just fights like a tank, just a lot of forward pressure, heavy hands. He gets hit a lot, he absorbs damage well, though. He's probably not going to get knocked out because he can take a shot, to say the least. Not a fight anyone should be betting on, realistically, unless for some reason you have an extreme read here. I'm officially going to pick Ewert by TKO. I think he's a little bit more experienced, and his style is going to carry over more easily. Like, McVey's style could work, but he needs more experience to make it work. So, Ewert will probably take this one, but it's pretty much a 50-50. Just got here after training. What did I miss? I was talking about the potential future of the stream. I'm thinking about streaming 3 days a week and like upping the quality of the streams. So I'm going to talk to you guys more about that, and I'll probably go back to it when I take a bit of an intermission from this, now that more of you are here. So moving on to Diniz versus Hines. I'm not going to say too much about this matchup. I think most of you guys know who Diniz is. He's absolutely useless if he's on his back, but on his feet that he does have a decent takedown defense. It's not the easiest to get him down. Carl Williams is a solid wrestler, couldn't get him down for I think the first 2 rounds. Diniz is hittable, but he's heavy-handed and he does a good job of not taking shots completely clean. He'll just walk forwards and throw stuff. He was a kickboxer before this. He was a favorite against Tafa, which is interesting because even though I would pick him to win, because he's so hittable, I feel like there was a chance that Tafa might have slapped him. But against Hines, who is just very mediocre everywhere, Hines really shouldn't have anything here. I think there's some people picking Hines for the upset because of the fact that he can wrestle, and it's like, oh, if Diniz gets taken down, he's just going to lose, which is true, yeah. But Hines has such sloppy takedown entries that I don't think he's going to get down Diniz if Carl Williams wasn't able to do so very easily. Hines has okay striking. He's had like one like highlight reel head kick and all of that, but it's all very like stereotypical heavyweight. It's not very skilled. So I'll pick Diniz by first round TKO. This is probably not going to be a very interesting one, except maybe Diniz gets a highlight. Nico Price versus Jacoby Smith. So, Jacoby Smith, I do not... he's one of those prospects that I do not like him because of how he fights. Like, if anyone watched his Contender Series fight, he just purposely was trying to blow the guy's knee out, which was super annoying to me because he was winning the fight. It's like, you are going to get a TKO here. There's no need to try to blow your opponent's knee out. But whatever, what Jacoby Smith does is effective, I will admit that much. He's very heavy-handed, has good wrestling, ground and pound if he can get it down. He, Southpaw, was able to basically chin press in Parsons very quickly, which is impressive, to be fair. Nico Price, in his prime, looked like he was going to be a crazy prospect because he was getting those like knockouts off his back and like almost Kevin Holland-like type stuff. High-volume striker, a lot of forward pressure. Problem is, of course, he's a bit chinny. He can get caught. Robbie Lawler put him out. Smith should kill him in under a round, realistically. I like Price. I mean, if Price gets an upset, that would be cool to see. But Smith should... They're feeding Price to Smith to try to get a highlight and just build him off of it. So, that is what it is. McKinney versus Borshchev is the first, like, actually very interesting matchup here. Because McKinney, of course, is one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous, first-round fighter in the UFC. He has, I believe, he's never gone to the third round, I believe. And all of his wins, I believe, are in round 1. If he goes past round 1, he loses. Borshchev, on the other hand, terrible takedown defense. I think he literally has like a sub 50% takedown defense. Decent kickboxing, but he's also very easy to rock for some reason. Like, people are going to say, like, oh, Sadikov hits very hard, so it's okay that Borshchev got rocked. But when you look at the shots that Borshchev got rocked with off Sadikov, it was not good. Like, shots barely grazed him, and he was stumbling around badly. So, if Borshchev takes a clean shot, I think he will go down. That was also reinforced by the Hooper fight, because Borshchev got dropped by Chase Hooper. I don't think Chase Hooper has, like, mildly stung anyone else on the feet ever. If it goes past round 1, of course, there is always a chance that McKinney gasses out and just gets pieced off, because Borshchev is a decent kickboxer. However, I do think McKinney can just wrestle the entire fight if he needs to. There is a small chance that this becomes like McKinney's first decision win, and just kills a bunch of parlays because everyone's going to bet like doesn't go the distance, or like McKinney in round 1, round 2, etc. McKinney could wrestle just the entire fight if he needed to, and probably pull off a decision, because Borshchev just does not have the ability to really get back to space. So, if you're looking at this fight to bet, I wouldn't go, like, betting McKinney finish is understandable, but I wouldn't go too heavy on that, to say the least. Borshchev does a pretty good job at surviving on the ground. Even though he officially got subbed by Hooper eventually, he didn't actually tap. The ref just got very trigger happy because he was getting beaten up like hell. So I don't blame the ref for stopping it, but he didn't actually tap. He was able to escape all of Hooper's submissions. So again, don't be surprised if this one goes the distance, even though it looks like it never should. I am going to favor McKinney because he can just default to the wrestling, and there is a chance that he chins Borshchev on the feet, because even though Borshchev is probably the more technical striker, McKinney is so fast, and if he lands one clean, the fight might be over. I think JDM is the better overall boxer than Ilya, can fight in both stances on the front and back foot. So, let's see, are we still in... We're in prelims. Okay, I'll take a small break to talk about that. Yeah, so JDM is probably the better boxer than Ilya, because Ilya's striking is not very nuanced. Like, Ilya throws the jab, the left hook, and the right overhand. Like, that's all he does with his hands. He never throws straights. He never throws right hooks. He never throws... I don't think he even ever throws uppercuts. So you know exactly what Ilya is going to throw at you at all times. Like, overhand, left hook, maybe left hook overhands, and just a bunch of jabs otherwise. So yeah, JDM has a lot more nuance. He throws more interesting combos. He will mix things up with his strikes. He'll switch stances, throw different strikes from both stances, and so on. So JDM is definitely like the quote-unquote better boxer. Does that necessarily matter if they fight? Not necessarily, because ultimately it's just who sets it up and is able to land. So I don't know how I would evaluate a fight between the two of them. But if we're talking about pure boxing skill, like, yes, I am going to favor JDM there. What would you consider a more impressive win? Ilya decidedly over Oliveira or Islam decidedly over JDM? Sorry, I think I said Islam instead of Ilya, but yeah, so Islam decidedly over JDM at this point would probably be more impressive. Because if, I'll get to it, but if Ilya wins, it'll probably look fairly easy. Ilya threw uppercuts in Bryce fight. I think JDM's more slick-wise, or slick skill-wise, though. I don't even remember Ilya throwing an uppercut in that fight, but fair enough, you do. Hot take, Merab beats Volk. It's possible. The problem is Volk has the cardio to contest with Merab, and has like that Aldo-like takedown defense at this point. Ilya versus Olives would be more impressive just because of how dangerous Topuria is. I think that there's a clear path to victory for Ilya against Oliveira. I don't think there's as clear a path to victory for Islam against JDM. So, if Islam made JDM look easy, that would be surprising and therefore be a lot more impressive to me. Are you crazy for thinking Pantoja is going to get his chin touched? I'll get to that in the fight. We'll talk about it when we're on that fight. Ilya performance against Emmett is all you need to know who is the better boxer. I mean, it doesn't take much to outbox Emmett. That's just the reality. Like, Emmett can be fun, but you know he's just going to swing overhands at you the entire fight. So, outboxing Emmett's not the biggest accomplishment in the world. Through a lead uppercut during the sequence where he knocked down Brett. Interesting. I'll have to rewatch that at some point. But even if he very sparsely throws in uppercuts or something, it's like 95% of the strikes he throws outside of jabs are like left hooks and right overhands. Does Yair stand a better chance of the rematch? I mean, he can't get worse, so... I mean, yeah, Yair would have to do better. Could he win? I mean, he could. Volk is getting older. I do think his reflexes are slowing down a little bit. So Yair is always going to be a threat with his head kicks. I think the problem is Yair has not improved his finishing ability. And that would be how... Like, he's not going to outpoint Volk. That's just the reality of it. So unless he's going to land a head kick and finish Volk, he's not going to win. Who would you currently rate as the best welterweight in the world? I do think JDM is the best welterweight in the world right now. Alright. We'll move on to this. I'll keep this one brief. I don't think anyone cares too much. Cortez, despite her having a very bad last fight, which is why I do think she's a bit underrated going into this one, she's fairly fundamentally sound everywhere. Pretty good boxing, very good takedown defense, okay takedown offense. I do think she could have actually beaten Rose if she had not been so insistent on getting the takedown. Because she was getting reversed a lot during takedown attempts, even though she was having success on the feet. It's like the weird Miranda Maverick thing, where like Maverick can be winning on the feet, but will just be insistent on shooting anyway. Like Cortez kind of has the same thing, but to a lesser extent. Like she's definitely willing to win a fight on the feet, but she will always be tempted to shoot. Araujo is just reasonable everywhere, but gasses out late. I think I'm blanking on if this is the case. Did she just fraud check someone? Yeah, she just fraud checked Rainy Silva, but okay. I honestly barely even remember how that fight went. I think that Araujo got like 2 takedowns in round 3, if I remember correctly, and then that like ended up stealing the round. Oh, she got all 3 takedowns in round 3. Yeah, I think there was an argument that she still lost. Like you could see by the strike counts. But judges love to score their top time with no damage, so that is what it is. I mean, realistically, Cortez should win. She has much better cardio. She's fundamentally just more sound everywhere, and Araujo is just pretty old now. So, Cortez decision, I mean, like, as you guys can see by their lovely method records here, this should be like minus 2,000 to go the distance. Anyways, we'll move on from this one. Does Rose still have a future in this division? Any realistic path to the title? Is her skill degraded too far? Especially after seeing that she struggled with Maverick, I don't think she has a future, like, getting towards the title. Because even though Maverick is not far, it's like a tailor-made matchup for Rose. So I feel like she got worse between the Blanchfield fights and the Maverick fight. It's very strange to watch. So, I mean, she could definitely try one more time, but I don't think she has a good chance. Is Charles Ilya more competitive or Ilya Arman? I think that Charles Ilya is actually more competitive because Charles has the ability to finish, where Arman really doesn't. Okay, someone asked about Haider Amil, so we will spend a bit extra time on that. Haider Amil is very high-paced. Like, that is basically what he does. Very high-paced, loves to wing hooks. He will mix things up consistently. He'll shoot a lot of takedowns. He'll try to jump to the back. I mean, he's going to just try to create a threat at all times, but it isn't the most technical threat in the world. Like, when he tried jumping on Fernie Garcia's back and then he just lost the back for pretty much no reason. Like, a lot of stuff like that happens with Amil, where the intentions are very interesting, but he goes for a lot more than he should and leaves himself very open when he does. Because when Garcia escaped the back control, he just got on top, and Amil should not have allowed that to happen. Amil's defense really just consists of using his chin. Like, his distance management is semi-existent, but if you are willing to brawl him, he will just brawl. So, yeah, I mean, he's just going to try to overwhelm you and then finish you. That's all he's going to do. There's no nuance. There's no waiting. It's just full volume at all times. I thought he lost to William Gomez, but he had a lot of forward pressure, which I think the judges like when it's semi-close. So even though he really should have lost by, like, damage-based scoring, it is what it is. Delgado is more of a sniper. He's more willing to back up, take his time, get a few reads. Even though he has a lot of early finishes, he doesn't, like, force the finishes. He kind of waits for them to come and then starts to unload a bit. Despite having a pretty, like, sizable reach for the division, he uses a lot more hooks than you would expect. He's not really, like, looking to snipe you with straights. He is looking to just throw hooks around the guard and catch you there. Very good step in knees. That's how he finished his fight on the Contender Series. Overall, because his movements can be very large, he is susceptible to getting taken down. So Amil's path to victory here is probably just exhaust Delgado with a lot of early wrestling, like use Delgado's overextensions to take him down, and he's probably not going to be able to establish control, but just keep taking him down, keep wearing him out, and then late round 2, early round 3, Amil could get a finish there. I am going to lean towards a Delgado finish, though, in probably round 1 or round 2, because Amil just takes too much damage. And I don't think he's fought someone who can really hit as hard as Delgado and has, like, the nuance in his game as Delgado does. So if Delgado is able to not just get taken down on repeat early and is able to get off a bit, I do think he'll damage Amil. And then Delgado also has pretty solid subs. So if Amil gets hurt and then starts, like, being even more reckless than usual or starts taking, like, panic shots or something, I wouldn't be surprised if Delgado was able to lock up a Darce or something. I'm going to pick Delgado to win by submission, and I do think it will be a Darce or maybe a guillotine, something like that. Whoever was asking about Amil, does that answer your questions, or did you have something else there? How long you think Pantoja is going to stay champion for? We'll get to that when I talk about Pantoja's fight. That answered your question? Okay, great. No problem. Okay. Hermansson versus Rodrigues. Rodrigues loves to change the way he fights once every few fights, which makes him very confusing to break down. But overall, he is a pressure striker who sometimes decides that he wants to grapple. When he grapples or not is so unreliable that it's really hard to know, like, the trajectory of how a fight is going to go, because he might decide that he's going to shoot 20 takedowns in the fight, or he might shoot literally 0. But overall, he is going to try to push you against the fence and land damage there. He is a bit chinny, it feels like. He got hit by that one shot from Bruno, which put him out cold, which was very surprising because you could see the reaction of like everyone there at that time was just confused. He is pretty massive for the division. I know like 6'3", I mean there are other 6'3" middleweights, of course, but he just looks big. Hermansson, on the other hand, also gonna mute for a second, I need to cough. Alright, so Hermansson, on the other hand, used to be like a pure, I'm just gonna keep shooting until I get you down and then try to maul you there. He used to be an extremely good finisher on the ground. He would use a lot of ground and pound, then use his modify. I don't know if it even counts as a guillotine. Everyone says it's a guillotine. I think the mechanism is more similar to an arm triangle, but it ends up looking like a guillotine. But he kind of goes to the side and then falls back into like a modified arm triangle. I don't know what the technical name is for it. But so Hermansson used to be very focused on that. After a few losses, he started focusing to more of a point fighting style. The Chris Curtis matchup comes to mind, where he kind of just stayed on the outside and kicked until he won the decision. If he shows up, like, how do I say this? I think he actually has a better chance if he shows up with his takedown heavy strategy, because Rodrigues will gas. So I think no matter what, Rodrigues will win round one because he's just more physical, and Hermansson doesn't really have like the power to hurt someone on the feet enough that it will stop them from coming forwards. So he's not going to do what Bruno Ferreira did to Gregory Rodrigues. But if he shoots enough takedowns in round one, he can get Rodrigues to work. There is definitely a world in which he wins rounds 2 and 3 here, or even gets like a third round finish or something. He's just so inactive that it's really hard to rely on Hermansson being like what he used to be in any capacity. I think that I have to lean towards Hermansson because he should have the ability to survive early. Like, a lot of people are saying that Rodrigues has a more nuanced stand-up than Pyfer. I don't really agree with that. Yes, Rodrigues throws other strikes sometimes, but the large majority of what he throws is just 1-2s, and then like sometimes he'll throw the left hook after and such. So I don't think he's going to have like this crazy boxing difference compared to Pyfer, where he's going to catch Hermansson completely unaware. If Hermansson is super rusty, yeah, maybe he gets caught, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I do think either way it will probably be like a 29-28 decision to either of them, but I am going to lean towards Hermansson to get it done. He dwarfed Jared in their fight, and Jared himself is pretty filled out. Yeah, exactly. He's huge. Like, looking at him, I think the only time he didn't look massive was against Leroy Duncan, and that just shows how big Leroy Duncan is, because looking at Rodrigues facing off with anyone else is ridiculous. You have some of the most detailed and accurate pricks, bro. Respect. Thanks. Looks even bigger than Drake is. Yeah, it's crazy. Robocop hurt Cannonier in their fight. No, yeah, he hurt Cannonier multiple times, but I don't think that Cannonier really has the same defensive nuance as Hermansson does. Cannonier, of course, has the win over Hermansson, but if you watch that fight, Hermansson was pretty much outclassing Cannonier in the first round, and then Jared made a good read of timing the knee on one of Hermansson's takedowns, and that basically just ended the fight. But up until Jared landed that knee, Hermansson was doing pretty well. So I would say that, like, in terms of like who's the better nuanced striker, I would technically say Hermansson is. He's built like a bodybuilder, that's why he gasses out. Well, that along with the fact that he's just massive, like 6'3", and with that physique, yeah. I mean, if he was a bit shorter and had like the bodybuilder physique, he might be able to keep up the pace, but yeah, with those two together, it's crazy. This fight going to decision, yeah, I think it's very likely. Anyone have any questions about that fight? It's a very contested fight, because I think Robocop was swelling up to like minus 250 at one point, and now he's come back down a bit. So I do think people do have respect for Hermansson. Possible split decision this fight? Yeah, I do agree. This could be a weird fight where, like, round 2 is very competitive, and then Jack takes over in round 3, and then we end up not knowing who won? Will this be a boring fight? I don't think it will be a boring fight, because even if Hermansson is trying to point fight, Rodrigues is probably just going to be running forwards. So it may be a fight where like Hermansson has to dance around a lot, but there will be probably a lot of danger on both sides, even if it ends up going the distance. So I don't think it will be boring. Crafty vet Jack by 29-20 decision. Yeah, pretty much. Don't think Robocop can chin him. It is possible. I mean, round 1, there's always a possibility Gregory chins anyone. But I don't think that his striking is nuanced to catch Hermansson, unless he kind of does it like Cannonier did and like times a takedown or something. I just don't think like the 1-2 and like the left hook is really going to be enough to catch Hermansson. Unless Hermansson's super rusty, which is possible because he's getting older and he's very inactive. But I don't think it's going to happen. Who do you think is currently the most filled out lightweight? Probably Chandler. I mean, Chandler's just a little, like, pure muscle. We talked about this on Discord, but does Hermansson losing first 2 rounds to Pyfer have any weight? Yeah, I mean, it definitely does, because had he just, like, outclassed Pyfer 50-45, I would definitely be picking him here. But the fact that he's definitely better in 5-round fights makes it so that it is riskier to pick Hermansson here, because he can't take 2 rounds off, he can only take 1 round off here. I don't know why he didn't shoot much against Pyfer. Maybe he just knew that Pyfer was going to wear himself out and he was okay with it, but I really felt like more takedowns against Pyfer would have done well for him. So if he's not shooting much in this fight, it may be a problem for him. If he goes back to his old, 8 to 10 takedown attempts in a fight, I do think he has a much better chance here. He's the most filled out lightweight? Maybe. I could see that. Do you think Ilya can beat any welterweights? Yeah, I do. I think Ilya can actually beat most of them. Paddy is too tall to be the most filled out. Yeah, I also agree with that. I do think Chandler's the most filled out because of just how... I mean, I wouldn't say short for the division, but he's definitely not tall. Paddy's taller. Who can Ilya beat? I mean, I think that Ilya would beat, say, Buckley, for example. I think he would have a solid chance against Cortez. I think even Gary, he might be able to get against the fence and then chin at some point. Chandler or Armin? Yeah, Armin's a decent candidate as well there. How does Armin Ilya go if Ilya beats Charles? I'll get to that when I talk about the main event. Yeah, Armin's not a bad pick. That is valid. Alright. Let's get on to the main card. So, this is an interesting fight because when it was first announced, my instinct was Lima kills him and Talbott has no chance here. But a lot of people that I talk to have Talbott here, which has been making me reconsider a little bit. I'll break down both fighters and we'll get into my new opinions on this. So Lima is extremely well-rounded. If the fight is going bad in one category, he will change it up. He'll change it up just for the sake of changing it up. That's how well-rounded he is. He can jump on the back standing. He can throw flying knees out of nowhere. He's a very fast striker. His takedowns are pretty solid as well. Took down Miles Johns, which is not an easy task. He had the sub against Naimov, which it is Naimov, right? Yeah. Yeah, sub Naimov in round 3. He won round 1 easily. Because it was so short notice, he started gassing in round 2, and then kind of just had that spur of energy in round 3 and got the fight done. So props to him for that. Talbott, on the other hand, is, of course, as we saw last fight, very one-dimensional in that he's only a striker. He has zero grappling whatsoever. If he gets taken down, he can scramble a little bit, but nothing overtly effective. Talbott, I have criticized for a long time. I don't know if you guys have seen my older videos on Talbott. Pre-Barcelos fight, I was saying that Talbott sucks. Because after I watched the, what's his name? The South African. The Simon fight. After I watched the Simon fight, I was basically saying that Talbott just relies 100% on his chin. he was getting caught equal or even worse in a lot of the exchanges against Simon, and was just relying on the fact that Simon doesn't hit that hard and that Simon does not have a spectacular chin. So Talbott looks much better than he is, in my opinion, because he has a very interesting fluidity, which could make him good. But the problem is skill for skill, I just don't think he's that good, because his timing isn't spectacular, his head movement is usually non-existent. So Talbott is dangerous, but I think it's more so because of his natural attributes than his actual skills. There's always going to be a chance that Talbott can catch someone and put them away. But Lima is better, in my opinion, everywhere. I mean, Lima, if he has no success in the stand-up for some reason, he can just start spam wrestling. Like, Lima has 5-round cardio. He has fought and won a 5-round decision before. Lima has also fought as low as flyweight before. So Lima's used to dealing with the lower weight class speed, and he's able to keep his cardio up even in lower weight classes. So at 135, now going down from 145 in his last fight, I do think he's going to be at his most comfortable, and I do think this is his opportunity to really put on like a stellar performance that gets him a lot of hype. Because if he can finish Talbott, even though the opinion on Talbott has dropped dramatically, that would definitely launch Lima into being like a true contender and start getting ranked opponents and such. Really rewatching the Talbott-Barcelos fight, even on the feet, it did not look like Talbott was good. And you could argue by that point he was a little drained, yeah, but it stays relatively consistent with his previous performances on the feet, which is, attribute-wise, he's dangerous, he hits hard, he is fluid, and his striking looks pretty to watch, but it's not very fundamentally sound. So unless Talbott improved dramatically, he probably gets dominated here. So I'm going to pick Lima by decision, because Talbott is pretty durable. He did a good job of not getting subbed. So I think Lima, 30-27, maybe he drops one round because he takes a bad shot and won them, maybe 29-28. But I do think Lima's going to get it done via relatively dominant decision. I would love to see a finish on Lima's side. I mean, realistically, either side. If either of them gets a finish, they'll be going a lot further in this division. But since I am favoring Lima here, I would like to see a Lima finish. And with how dynamic he is, like how he can quickly chain from a regular combo into jumping into I shouldn't say jumping, basically sprinting into a flying knee mid combo. Like, some of the things he does are just crazy. And I would like to see, with a bit more refinement, how far he can go. Let's see. Talbot round 1 TKO if they start at a crazy pace. It's possible, of course. I just don't think it's going to happen because of the fact that Lima can always default to the wrestling. And I just don't think that Talbot's going to have gone from 0 wrestling to being able to stuff all of Lima's takedowns in one fight. I still don't think Lima's very good. I don't agree with you there. I think Lima's pretty good at almost everything. He's extremely fast, he's extremely accurate, his defense is crazy. I'm forgetting what his defensive percentage is, but yeah, 72% striking defense. That's not something you see after fighting 2 pretty good opponents. So Lima's very hard to hit, so for Talbot to finish him is going to be very unlikely, to say the least. What do you think of Cameron Wellmaker? I mean, Cameron's the ideal target to go out like that, so I think Wellmaker definitely needs a higher test, to say the least. There's still a weird amount of people who think Talbot's a good prospect. Yeah, I mean, Talbot could be a prospect. I just don't think he can make the number of changes necessary. When do you think the meta of Dagestani cage-side grappling will come to an end? I think it is coming to an end. I think within the next few years, it's going to be just another style. Tony versus Ilya, who wins? Good question. A lot of people are going to say Ilya hands down. The reason why I don't necessarily believe that is because Tony would not let Ilya take a single forward step in that fight. And on the back foot, he has considerably less damage, or rather, he can create considerably less damage. But I'll get into that more when I talk about the main event. Round 2 sub for Lima, very possible. I think Lima finish, unless Talbot has improved a lot. Yeah, very possible. You fail to consider Talbot as... Okay. Fair enough. Do you think I'm good at everything? Maybe? How do you think a hypothetical fight between John Silva and Wonderboy would go? At this point in his career, Wonderboy is just too slow in my opinion, and he relies a lot on his reflexes. The karate style is very reflex dependent, so I think Jean Silva could catch him, even though he's a lot smaller. Wellmaker's a one-trick pony. He's fun, so we'll see where he goes. Talbott's still young, he could definitely make the improvements. He can, which is why this is just a very weird fight for me. Like, I don't get why they'd be like, oh, you're a possible prospect who definitely needs time. Okay, we'll just give you Lima, who's good everywhere. Like, a very weird matchmaking to me. Is Moicano Dariush really that close? We'll get to that in a second. Do you rate Paddy Pimblett at lightweight? I think he's better than people thought he was a fight ago, and worse than people think he is now, if that makes any sense. Karate style, especially front leg kicking, is super underrated offense. Agreed. What do you think about the new fighter? I know nothing about it. What's next for Pantoja if he wins? We'll get some when we talk about Pantoja fight. Yeah, weird Dana White just throwing together. Yeah, I don't know. Why do you always doubt Ilya? We KO Sylvan too. Because why do I always doubt Ilya is an interesting question. Because I have definitely, I'm not going to say underrated, but doubted his chances more than hypothetically I should have given his results throughout basically his entire career. But there are reasons for that. Because he is very predictable and he does have very clear weaknesses. Granted, he's very good at what he does. Like, he has mastered setting up that overhand. And his footwork is very good as well. But he does have a lot of issues. Wait, is Lima 5'6"? I feel like he's taller than that, but maybe. Apparently he's 5'6". I don't really believe that. I feel like he's more like 5'7", 5'8", maybe. How long until Dana will be pushed out? I have no idea what's happening with UFC. Why do these fighters have such random weights on website? So it may be that they took their post weigh-in weight once and then they just plastered everywhere. Thoughts on people saying Ilya retires undefeated? It's possible. I mean, I would not be surprised if it happened. It really depends how much more he fights, because he's saying he wants to fight Islam if Islam wins after this. So hypothetically, let's say he beat Oliveira, and hypothetically Islam beat JDM. Topuria somehow gets to go up and fight Islam and beats him. He might just retire on the spot, so like that would be feasible-ish. Please do these streams more often? I'll try to. Do you think Ilya is the master of baiting his opponents to lower their guard for his overhand? I think more so he's the master of setting up his footwork so that you have to walk into the overhand. Chimaev retires undefeated. Thoughts? Very unlikely. I think Chimaev is going to get destroyed against DDP. Who do you think is the worst matchup for Topuria? At lightweight, I don't know. I think that lightweight's in a very weird spot where the division's a lot weaker than people think it is right now. Like, the new guard hasn't really established themselves and come in yet, and the old guard is getting kind of anticlimactic. Alright, we'll move on to the next one. Dariush versus Moicano. Whoever was asking about that, now is your time. I'll be blunt. I have no idea how Moicano opened as the favorite again. Because the reality is Dariush is probably just a bit better everywhere. I think the only place where Moicano is better is once he gets control on top, he's a bit more imposing than Dariush getting control on top. Because Dariush is more flowing in his grappling style, Moicano is more control heavy. So yeah, if Moicano gets on top of you like half guard or side control, full mounts, etc., yeah, he's just going to smash your face in. Dariush, you may be able to escape and survive. But can Moicano get to that position on Dariush? I don't think so. No one has really outgrappled Dariush pretty much ever. I think the one time that someone outgrappled Dariush was Chiesa, like 10 years ago, randomly sub Dariush after getting dominated in round 1. It was a very strange fight. But I think that ultimately, unless Moicano can get to that position, I don't see what he's going to do, because his shots are not like Gamrot shots. So even though he has better control on the ground, he doesn't have the same ability to get the fight to the ground like Gamrot does. And on the feet, I think Dariush is just better. Like, yeah, everyone points to the fact that Dariush is chinny. And yeah, that is true. He's not the best at taking a hit. But Moicano is not exactly known as a power puncher. Like, this fight may come down to just an anticlimactic striking fight between two grapplers, in which case I'm going to favor Dariush, because Dariush has outstruck some decent strikers. I mean, like, before he walked into the flying knee against Barboza, he was doing a pretty good job beating him on the feet. Like, let's look at some other good people that Dariush has taken care of on the feet. Okay, Scott Holtzman isn't good, but he got the knockout there. Jakar Close, he did get rocked, but he was able to get the knockout there. Dober, he was doing okay against on the feet. Not amazing, but he did okay. This was, okay. I feel like this is just what would be the word? Basically a miracle. I think that Dariush wins this fight like 99 out of 100 times. It is what it is. Shitting Vic is just a rite of passage, but he did it. But like, point being, like, yeah, we're looking at the strikes in Dariush versus Barboza. Yeah, he ran into the flying knee, that happens, but he was up on Barboza, like prime Barboza in strikes. So I think the reality is that Dariush is just better everywhere except that one position, which Moicano probably is not going to be able to get. Remember thinking Dariush was going to challenge Islam. Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem is that Dariush is just a little bit slow. Like, he doesn't have the natural attributes to really be a champion, unfortunately. But skill for skill, he's very solid everywhere. Dariush has always been bad defensively, but that one won't matter here. I don't think Dariush is even bad defensively. I think the problem is just when he gets hit, he just dies. People forget Binio was the nightmare matchup for Islam. Yeah, I mean, the problem and the interesting thing is, if that fight had happened, it would have been more interesting than people are making it sound now. I am pretty confident that Islam would have won eventually, but Islam would not have been able to outgrapple Dariush either, in my opinion, and it would have become a striking match on the feet, of which Islam is a little bit better, but it's not like a massively better. Islam just hits a little harder and is probably a bit better defensively. But like, it could have gone to decision. Like, there's no guarantee that Islam would have knocked him out. Patty dog walks Ilya and submits him. I mean, that would shock me, but it's possible. How often are your predictions correct? I don't keep an official track record. I mean, you can go back and count if you want. Moicano striking looks solid at the start of the Islam fight. It did. I think the problem is that Moicano is technically okay, but he'll just randomly drop his right hand at times and get caught for it every single time. Like, if you look at the Turner fight, he was doing perfectly fine on the feet, and then just randomly drops his right hand and gets blasted. So that could cost him against Dariush, because Dariush will look for something like that. Patty gets KO'd so easily, always backs up against the fence. Yeah, that's probably what would be the problem. The other issue is that Patty will throw naked leg kicks and then get countered with overhands, which would be a problem. If Ilya loses even a round to Patty, he's off the GOAT list, fair enough. I could see Moicano outpointing him on the feet for 3 rounds. It is possible. I just think that Dariush is overall the better striker. Ultimately, their stats are so like similar, it is almost creepy. Like, they're 15 days apart in terms of age. I think they're both 5'10", right? Oh no, Moicano's 5'11". They're same exact reach, 1 inch in height separate, 57% striking defense versus 60. Basically same striking literally same striking accuracy rather. So they are very similar as fighters. Moicano's a little bit faster. I think Dariush is a little bit more technical on the feet, though. I think Dariush hits a little harder also, And I think in a close fight, which will probably end up being a point fight, I think Dariush hitting a little harder and just being a little bit more technical on the feet will get him the win. Any fear of Dariush being washed, though? I mean, his losses are to Oliveira and Arman. It's not a terrible look. I mean, I don't think he's going to randomly just be completely out of prime here, especially because his style is not attribute-based at all. So it's not a real concern for me. Who should the winner fight? I would say that if Moicano wins, maybe he should rematch Fiziev. If Dariush wins, maybe like a Gaethje fight makes sense or something like that. The lightweight title will be a rock, paper, scissors, Ilya, Arman, Paddy. I don't know if Paddy gets in there, but maybe. Did you know Joshua Van only started training at 18 and 19 with no martial arts backgrounds? Was not aware of that, but that's impressive if so. Moicano outstruck Cater at featherweight. He did, but it was very leg kick heavy. It exploited the fact that at that time Cater had 0 leg kick defense. It wasn't like he was really outboxing him for much of the fight. So, very different stylistic matchup in my opinion. Serious about what? Oh, Van, yeah. If that's the case with Van, that's crazy, because he's super young now. Paddy's becoming the lightweight champ. He has plot armor. We'll see how far that plot armor gets when he's fighting better fighters. I find it ironic how Paddy talks about Arman having everything handed to him, even though he's had way tougher opponents than Paddy, and Paddy is ducking a fight with him. Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to fight Gaethje because it's the easier fight, realistically. But I do think that Paddy is a harder fight for Arman than Gaethje would be. Because I think Arman takes down Gaethje once and just mauls him. Dariush just slow gets leg kicked. I think he has relatively fundamental defense against leg kicks, though. I don't think he's just going to get kicked in the leg for 15 minutes. Like, I think he will make the read and check it. Paddy's opponents are 0 and 13 losing streak combined. That is kind of funny. But I don't think that's actually true because Jared Gordon. But outside of Gordon, that's probably correct. It's going to be published on your channel. Got to get up early to golf. Yeah, so I think this should get automatically converted to a VOD once it's done. So don't worry there. If you want to finish it tomorrow, feel free. Have a good night if you're getting off. Okay, so this is probably like one of the most controversial fights on the card, and I have an extreme opinion about it. Because Van opened at, I think, minus 250 if I remember correctly. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's crazy. And a lot of people bet on Royval instantly. Royval became the slight favorite. Now it's balanced back. Van is a very mild favorite. Royval, I feel like people don't understand the issues with this style, though. Royval is very reliant on being dynamic. But if you look at what he actually does, his boxing defense is atrocious. Like, he drops his hands randomly, he leaves his chin straight up in the air, he walks forwards with his hands down, his defense is stepping out of range and using his height and length, which can work in some cases, but it doesn't work when you enter, and he has no defense when he enters either. So, the only way Royval wins this, in my opinion, is he has to land something absolutely crazy. Like, he has to land like a flying knee or a spinning elbow, which is possible. I mean, he can pull that stuff out, and Van has shown that he can get chinned. So I'm not going to rule that out. Or he has to get some type of scramble where he can snatch up like a guillotine or something. I don't think that's going to happen because Van has showed pretty fundamental takedown defense and was able to scramble against Topuria, or however you say his name. And Ray is a better wrestler than Royval, in my opinion. So I don't think that Van is going to have that many problems with the wrestling unless Royval is going to like Imanari roll or something wild. So outside of like a 5 to 10% chance, I don't see how Royval can win this. Like, I see a very high chance that Van just puts on a masterclass of countering Royval's boxing issues. So if someone has an argument against that, I would like to hear it, because a lot of people are picking Royval, and I just don't understand why. Van's ability to get up when he's taken down is absurd. Yeah, it is. Like, Van is very technical everywhere. Van is so small, though. Yeah, he's small, but it's not like hindering his ability to pack a punch, so I think it's okay. Doesn't Pantoja also have pretty sus boxing defense? Yes, but there's a big difference because Pantoja just can't get hurt. So if Royval had Pantoja's chin, I might agree. But Pantoja, like, the only person who ever dropped him was Figgy, and Figgy had to run into the shot that dropped Pantoja. And even then, Pantoja picked up the pace in the following round. Royval's not like that. Royval can get dropped. Royval got dropped by Schnell. Could Van's consistency be a problem? Little time to recover. I think that at his age, it's okay. I don't love it, but it's not like he also took any real damage against Bruno Silva, so I think he'll be okay. I could see Van having more problems defending takedowns against Royval simply because Racist Fury or whatever is incapable of striking any sense of setting up a takedown. I agree, but Royval is also just not a good wrestler. So I don't really like even if he sets up the takedowns better, I don't see him being like a significantly better wrestler than Cody Durden or anything. Great videos, keep it up, thanks. Schnell dropping Royval is insane. Yeah, it's funny. I only picked Royval at first because it seems like he's a good gatekeeper. Yeah, I mean, I get that thought process from a lot of people initially. It just seems like he has to land something wild. Like, I don't know how he wins otherwise. Royval can KO him, it's not out of the box. Yeah, I would not be surprised if he landed some weird flying knee or spinning elbow and knocked out Van. Like, it would not be shocking by any means. But outside of that happening, assuming this ends up being a relatively regular fight, I just don't see how he wins. I hope Van wins would help the division IMO. No one wants Royval to the title shot again. Yeah, that's valid. If Van just outboxes Royval, do you think he has a good shot against Pantoja? So, the problem with this fight is the fact that Van will go into a title shot if he wins, and I think it is way too early for that. I think the biggest problem is that give Van 3 more fights, and I think he has a good shot of being champ. But if he goes into a Pantoja title shot right after beating Royval, I think that he's probably going to end up getting taken down and subbed at some point. Because even though his takedown defense is very good, it's not defend against Pantoja for 25 minutes good. Even though it worked out, I don't know how Van's team lets him fight 2 months after the Johnson fight, then again 3 months after. Yeah, I agree. I did not like the fact that they had him fight 2 months after getting knocked out. Tyra or Albazi. Tyra. I think Van needs to fight someone with better grappling experience like Moreno. Yeah, that would be the logical step up before fighting Pantoja, but UFC is just going to keep pushing Van to title shot probably. I'd be interested to see Van fight Tyra. I think that will be a great fight in like 3 years. I want them to wait on a fight like that though. Because they're both so young, it's like, okay, that can be a future of flyweight fight. Not like a fight we see too soon. Pantoja is getting older, he could just show up washed one day. No, yeah, that is correct. I do think that there's going to be a weird drop off in Pantoja at some point. Van versus Tyra was scheduled a while back. Yeah, I'm glad it fell out. Crazy Van can become champ by 24 or 25, yeah. Van should be pushed to the title anyways, Pantoja's beaten everyone. Well, we have to think about the future of the division. If we rush Van, even though he could be given a title shot, but if we do rush him and he loses, it's very bad for the future of the division. If we hold Van back a few times and just sacrifice someone else to Pantoja, or have Pantoja go up to fight Merab would be the even better solution, then we can look towards building Van or Tyra as one of the next dominant champions. But we don't want a situation where everyone has lost to Pantoja and then Pantoja retires and it's like, well, okay, now we can't even pretend that someone's like the legitimate champion. I got into UFC about 6 months ago and your videos were some of the first I watched. I'm glad to hear that. Pantoja said he doesn't want to move up. Yeah, it's unfortunate if he keeps that mentality. He did say before he was thinking about moving up, so I'm hoping he changes his mind, but yeah. Pantoja or Merab? I have to lean Merab at this point, but I do think Pantoja has a legitimate chance. Alright, we'll go on to the co-main event. So, everyone knows how these two fight for the most part. Just gonna take a bit of water because my voice is being weird. Give me a sec. Alright, so as I was saying, everyone knows how these two fight at this point. Pantoja is going to spam takedowns, run at you, blitz, throw 3 hooks in a row, and then shoot a takedown is his normal pattern. Even if he doesn't get the takedown, he'll probably just try to jump on your back. If he gets the takedown, he may settle into a little bit of control, but then he'll try to work to your back from there and choke you out. Usually, it's just going to go for the rear naked choke. He has jumped guillotine a few times, though. I don't know if he's hit any in the UFC. Let's see. Rear naked, punch, rear naked, neck crank. Okay. He hasn't hit any of the guillotines, but he has tried a few. So, usually you just have to worry about the rear naked choke. Okay, maybe not in this matchup, but I'll get to that. But yeah, typically he's going for the rear naked choke off the back. He does have very good calf kicks on the outside, which is underrated. He also, in the, I think it was the cop fight, used a lot of body kicks on the outside. So he does have a skill set that he doesn't always go to just because his grappling is so dominant. But even if you can stuff all his takedowns, it is not a guaranteed win because he can strike. Like, he legitimately does have knockout threat. Against Azakura, before he choked him out, he did actually rock him on the feet first. I don't think he even realized he rocked him on the feet because then he went back to grappling. But he has the ability to knock people out if he really wants to or needs to. Kai Kara-France, very overhand dependent, and he kind of throws overhand into second overhand. He catches people a lot with the second overhand. It's very interesting. I haven't seen anyone else with this style before, but he's really trying to get like the, if you can, for those of you who remember how Figgy dropped Pantoja where he kind of ran into the shot, it's like Kai Kara is always kind of trying to do that, except he's trying to do it with overhands instead of straights. So he's extremely fast. His power is good, but he needs to set it up in specific ways. It's not like he's just going to tap you with a straight and you're going to go down. His takedown defense has evolved considerably. He was a massive underdog against, what's his name? Askar Askarov. And he was able to nullify almost all of the grappling, get the decision win there. Against Albazi, he got robbed very badly, but for the most part neutralized all of the grappling. The biggest problem is that when Kai Kara has to focus on the grappling, he stops being especially dangerous on the feet. Like, he becomes more of a point fighter. And against Pantoja, I don't think you can afford to be a point fighter. I think you do have to try to hurt Pantoja, as difficult as it is, to really get him off of you. Even Figgy, who again hurt Pantoja multiple times, was having problems because Pantoja was just pressuring him nonstop, and Figgy was like, what the hell do I have to do to get you to stop? So, I think ultimately, this is a very bad fight for Kai Kara, stylistically. Pantoja should be able to just outpace him. He may not get the takedowns for like 2 rounds, maybe even 3 rounds, but he will probably piece him up on the feet because Kai Kara is going to be waiting for the takedown. Pantoja is going to keep blasting calf kicks or body kicks or whatever he needs to do. So I do think Pantoja is going to get a 3rd or 4th round submission. I do think in this fight, it may end up being a guillotine, because one thing I've noticed is that whenever Kaikar is trying to recover his position from the grappling, he gives up that position, where he kind of like extends his neck and like gets up in a weird way that lets you just jump on it. That's part of how Royval caught him. So I do think we may see Pantoja's first guillotine finish in this fight. People forget, man, Pantoja just turned 35. Yeah, I don't think Kaikara is going to be the one to exploit it, but Pantoja is definitely ending his time at the top in all likelihood. He's probably not going to get many more title defenses. People forget Pantoja dropped Moreno. Yeah, exactly. Like, Pantoja has legitimate power. What does Pantoja have to do to have a comparable legacy to DJ? In my opinion, if Pantoja wins this fight and one more, I believe he's surpassed DJ just because of the difference in talent he's facing. Both of them lost to Askarov. No, Kaikara beat Askarov. Pantoja did lose to Askarov earlier. I think Pantoja will outstrike Kaikara fronts via pressure takedown threat. Yeah, very possible. Out of 10, how confident are you on Van? Like, I'm going to say like a 7.5. You think Tyra is going to be a champ? It's very possible. Pantoja could eat that knee from Azakura. I'm going to find it hard for someone to put his lights out. Yeah, especially if what Figgy did to him couldn't put him out. And I recommend everyone rewatch that fight just because it was very fun, but also showed how much crazy damage Pantoja can absorb. Then only Age is going to beat Pantoja's chin. Who beats Pantoja at flyweight? In my opinion, the only real chance is Tyra in like 2 years. Van also is a possibility, of course. It's just not the best stylistic matchup for Van. But if we have a more advanced Tyra who can scramble with Pantoja, but also has evolved to like really have stepped into his prime in terms of striking as well, then he has a chance. What's your favorite division right now? It usually goes between flyweight and bantamweight. I feel like they're usually the best two. Which UFC brought back Moicano? Moicano, I mean, they can bring him back. It'll be interesting to see. I just don't think he'll go very far. Can Charles win via everyone praying in unison? That'll be interesting. Crazy to think Steve Erceg almost beat Pantoja. Yeah, I do think that Pantoja had a very weird underperformance in that fight. Part of it is stylistic matchups. It was a good matchup for Erceg. But I do think Pantoja also just did not fight nearly to how he could have in that fight. How do you think Moicano would fare against Pantoja? Moicano would get like knocked out within 2 rounds, most likely. Imagine Tyra trains with Inoue. Yeah, that would be crazy. Temirov flatlines Pantoja with big overhands. Temirov needs to have more than 1.5 round cardio to go any further in the division. I need to figure out how to put polls on here. I don't know how to do that. I'd love to do polls after every fight just to see how many people think each thing, but I genuinely don't know how to do this. Does anyone know how you do that? Is Azakura ever going to fight again? I feel like he just got scheduled, but I don't know who he got scheduled against. I could be crazy. How does Tagira Ulambeka fit into all of this? I don't think Tagira is going much further. Search a YouTube tutorial. Yeah, I'll do that at some point. Just for now, if I could find a way quickly. Plus. Oh, start a poll. Here we go. That work? There we go. Everyone is picking Pantoja. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Pantoja should win this. Like, not that Kaikara has no chance, but it would definitively be considered an upset if Kai Kara won, in my opinion. I think Kai Kara France is being underrated here. Depends on his approach, however, and Pantoja could definitely make it look easy. I think that Kai Kara is very skilled. The problem is, against the grappler matchups, he just turns not dangerous at all. Like, I'm not saying that he can't win, but you have to pick Pantoja, in my opinion. I also got Pantoja by sub. Yeah, it's like the logical pick here. Pantoja should sub him, realistically. And I don't think it will be easy. I do think that, again, Kai Kara will definitely make him work for it. I think he'll look somewhat good in round 1, maybe round 2 as well, but I think the pressure will start getting to him. Where would you rank Pantoja pound for pound? I would say probably like 3 to 4 right now. Dude, for Ilya, Charles, before you share your opinion. It makes sense. Interesting how UFC ranked Tagir over Van. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Tagir, after a very anticlimactic fight against Maxim, and not anticlimactic in that it was boring, I thought it was actually a really fun fight, but he should have done better against Maxim, in my opinion. I don't know why they would put him over Van. Problem for Kai Kara France is I'm not confident in him winning, even if he steps all the takedowns. Yeah, exactly. Ankalaev versus Aspinall prediction. I don't think Ankalaev is dangerous enough for that fight, so I'm going to go with Aspinall. But Ankalaev could definitely catch him. I would not rule it out at all. Which champion has your favorite approach / style? Probably JDM right now. Drakus is up there as well, but that's more so because of the game planning than his actual style. Weren't Pantoja's fights with Moreno, Royval, and Ursig super close, though? Well, okay, so the Ursig one is more so, in my opinion, because it's just a weird matchup and he had an underperformance. But yeah, it was close. But then we look at Moreno and Royval. The Royval one wasn't very close. I think it was 49-46, with like 4 rounds being extremely dominant. The Moreno one was close, but everyone forgets how good Prime Moreno was. I don't think Prime Moreno is here anymore, unfortunately. But Prime Moreno was crazy. So edging a win over Prime Moreno is still beating someone who is ridiculously good. Do you think the size between Ilya and Charles is way too exaggerated? We'll get to that. Do you still think that Imavov beats DDP? I'm not nearly as confident anymore because of how good DDP's game planning has shown to be, but I do think he has the right style to do so. DDP has a style so goofy it psychologically damages his opponents. Fair. And how does Anthony Hernandez do against top 5 middleweight? You know, after watching the Allen fight, I don't think he really gets top 5 anymore. I think he's just too open on the feet, and I don't think he has the best chin either. Like, if he can drag you later into fights, he'll always be dangerous, but I think he's going to get starched at some point. Alright, so let me put a poll up for the main events. You think Roman beats him? It really depends on how he fights. Delidze is also kind of old now, so I could see Fluffy beating Delidze, but that's like a 50-50 in my opinion. Okay, let's end this poll. And now create another poll. I will give this a few minutes and I'll answer questions in the meantime. Always see what you guys think about this fight. So far, it is closer than I expected. I think Hernandez needs 5 rounds. There's no way he beats a top 5 guy with only 3 rounds. Yeah, agreed. Which fighters are you rooting for? Honestly, I don't have any real favorites on this card, I think. I mean, like, I'm always an Oliveira fan, so fair enough for him. But I think with Oliveira versus Topuria, I've gotten to the point where I just want to see what's going to happen, because I've analyzed it so deeply where it's like, I'm not even watching as a fan now, I'm watching as an analyst, if that makes any sense. think Alex beats Ankalaev in the rematch. Honestly, it depends what version of Alex shows up. If he shows up like last time, not at all. If he shows up like he did in his earlier fights where he's more aggressive, I think he does. I can't if Oliveira loses, fair enough. Thoughts on Royval moving up to 135? I think it will go even worse for him because of the fact that he's so reliant on his height. So I think that when he has less of a height advantage, his lack of fundamental striking defense will be even more problematic. What do you think Topuria's biggest weakness might be? I'll get to that soon. I do have a lot to say on that. What do you think is the most underutilized technique in MMA? Side kicks. I think side kicks are actually very effective when thrown well. So do you think Khamzat beats Anthony Hernandez? That's a good question because that's actually a very good matchup for Hernandez because he's probably not going to get knocked out on the feet there. And if he just survives the early rounds, he'll be okay. So I may actually lean with Hernandez there just because the stylistic matchup, even though I think that Chimaev is like an overall better fighter. Alright, so right now 62% Topuria. I'll leave it up for one more minute, I think. Oh, can I add another poll? Can I have two polls at the same time, or is that not a thing? Okay, no, you can only have one active poll at a time. Who do you reckon is the most well-rounded grappler in the UFC at the moment? That's a good question. Honestly, in a weird way, it might be Dariush. If we're talking about well-rounded. Majority of Ilya's fights at featherweight have stylistically favored him a lot. Yeah, I agree. Is Kai getting the finish? Probably not. Even if Kai wins, it will have to be a drawn-out decision, in my opinion, because he's not aggressive enough whenever there's a takedown threat. Should Bo Nickel move to 170? Yes. Definitely. How is it not Khamzat? Khamzat hasn't shown necessarily an ability to fight from the bottom, and he only really likes one position, which is the back. So, like, he's very effective at getting that position, but when the question is who's the most well-rounded grappler, it's definitely not Khamzat because he only likes fighting from one position. Do you think Kai is strong for his weight class? Probably. On the stronger side. I think he's up there, but I don't think he's necessarily stronger than Pantoja. I would have thought Dariush's lack of strong takedown threat wouldn't put him that high. I wouldn't say that Dariush lacks a takedown threat. Because even if we're looking again, Dariush... Okay, they didn't give them the takedown against Oliveira, but I would say he got a takedown. Took down Diego Ferreira 5 times, which is not an easy task. Took down Drakkar close. He took down most of his opponents. Like, okay, he got chinned immediately here, so that didn't work. But he has, like, ability to get takedowns, right? I'm not saying he's the best grappler in the UFC in terms of his ability to get finishes and, like, completely control everything. But in terms of well-rounded, where it's like, oh, he's good off his back, he's good at getting takedowns, he's good on top, he's good on the back. Yeah, then I'm probably going to say Dariush. Should I put my life savings on Topuria? No. Bahamondes versus Fiziev showed height is sometimes over-exaggerated. That's not necessarily the case, because the biggest problem with Bahamondes was he wasn't using his height. It wasn't the fact that, like, the height is exaggerated. It's just that he was getting close anyways. Khabib versus Ilya breakdown. We would need to see how Ilya does against chain wrestling. I can't really break it down until we see that. Do you have the same knowledge for boxing? No, I do not, unfortunately. I have closer to the same knowledge for something like Muay Thai, but I don't follow it as diligently by any means, so I don't, like, have the same knowledge of the fighters. But in terms of like, okay, if you want me to break something down, sure. But boxing with the larger gloves dynamic is a bit different, so. You think leg lock should be utilized more for top-level MMA? No, they were used for a while, and then they kind of fell out of fashion because of the fact that people realized if you can just start defending it and just punch someone in the face, they can't do anything. Charles doesn't use his height as well. I don't agree with that, because I think his teeps are very good, which uses his height, and I think he does very well in the clinch with knees, which is also using his height. For Muay Thai, how can I get better at head movement in sparring? I find it difficult because of how big the gloves are. How can you get better at head movement? I mean, ultimately, it depends on your stature and that of your opponents, because it's a different dynamic if you're taller or shorter and all of that. Like, you can always fade backwards if you're the taller opponent a lot easier, and you can consider that head movement to an extent. If you're shorter, you always want to dip to the side. Would you be shocked if Charles wins? No, not at all. Okay, I think I gave enough time for the poll, so we'll get into this. Let me close the poll. So I'm not sure how many of you watched my video on the Topuria matchup or not, but I do think this fight is much closer than people are making it seem. Like, I think that either of them have a very good opportunity to win this fight, because both of these fighters do significantly better when they're on the front foot. Topuria, if he's backing someone up, can line up the shot against the fence and put you out. Like, on the front foot, he is potentially the best fighter in the UFC. Oliveira, on the front foot, is going to absolutely break you just with his volume, diversity of techniques, and the fact that he's apparently the hardest hitter that Gaethje's ever fought. So, Oliveira, again, I've said in the YouTube video, and for those of you who didn't hear it there, I believe Oliveira actually hits harder than Topuria, which might seem strange, but Topuria has to put all of his body weight into his shots to cause damage, and even then, if he's on the back foot or doesn't have his footing completely correct, does not necessarily create that much damage. Oliveira, on the other hand, with a straight, will rock someone extremely badly if not put them out. So, natural power, I definitely give Oliveira the edge. Granted, footwork, Topuria is levels ahead of Oliveira. Oliveira is just going to keep the simple Muay Thai stance for the most part. Topuria is going to move around a lot, find his angles, and so on. So, whoever controls the space in this fight is likely going to win. Now, I theorized in the YouTube video that Topuria might shoot early in order to control that space, because whenever someone starts shooting on Oliveira, he doesn't advance as diligently. Like, he'll start backing up randomly, and he's more prone to get caught there. If Oliveira wants to push Topuria back, I don't know if he's going to shoot. I don't know if he's just going to basically run forward with teeps and knees and such, or how he's going to approach it. But whenever Topuria throws his overhand, he is susceptible while he's throwing it, because if you slip it, he's wide open, and he's usually susceptible after he throws it, because his resetting takes like half a second-ish to maybe even a second. You could see in the Holloway fight that whenever Topuria would throw an overhand, Holloway could hit him with pretty much anything he wanted. I don't think Holloway exploited that as much as he should have, because he would kind of just like backing up, throw out like a counter rather than really step in and crack Topuria, and I think that costed him eventually, but he was still getting hit every time. So we could see during Topuria's last two fights, like, Topuria is down on strikes in these two fights. You cannot do that against Oliveira, because if you're down on strikes against Oliveira, you are getting exhausted and you are getting broken, especially considering the fact that Topuria does not defend kicks at all. He defends head kicks, he does not defend calf kicks or body kicks. You can just blast them as frequently as you want, he will not do anything about them. So, if Oliveira is able to just start getting off his teeps and start getting off his knees and throw his calf kicks, things are going to get dicey for Topuria very quickly. Ultimately, I am going to pick Topuria, because the problem is that with his footwork advantage, the chances of him not landing one shot early that can hit Oliveira are pretty low in my opinion. Or I shouldn't say pretty low. I'm just going to say that I would favor Topuria to be able to do that. Oliveira usually takes a few moments to get his timing. Something I've noticed over his last few fights. So, against Dariush, gets taken down very early. Against Gaethje, gets dropped very early. Against Poirier, gets dropped very early. Later in round 1, into round 2, starts getting his steam. Against Gaethje, of course, he didn't take into round 2. But usually it takes him a little bit of time, then he starts feeling himself getting his timing, and then he's able to crack his opponent. Topuria, on the other hand, in both the Holloway and Volk fights, landed a lot early round 1, and then started doing worse in round 2 as the opponent started getting his reads. So I think that there's going to be an interesting dynamic here, where under half a round, Topuria has a massive advantage. If we clear half a round, and Oliveira starts getting his timings, then it starts getting a bit more interesting. And then it's like, okay, is Oliveira able to keep that up, or is Topuria able to adjust like he was in the Volkanovski fight and find the one big shot he needs? Again, overall, I have to lean Topuria by TKO. But I'm like 60-40. And the problem is that whoever wins, it's going to seem like it was obvious all along. Because someone's just going to basically beat up the other one and most likely chin them. In case there's a small caveat to that, which is that maybe Ilya does well the first half of round 1, but Charles survives. Then Charles does well the second half of round 1, but Ilya survives. And then one of them makes the adjustment in round 2 and gets the finish. But I think in all likelihood, we're either going to see a very quick finish from one or the other of them in either the first half of round 1 or second half of round 1, maybe first half of round 2. So let me get to a few questions here. I think Ilya's grappling is overrated. I think that his submissions are overrated. I don't think they're that effective. I think that his ability to be relatively technically sound is pretty solid. They use the down block very well versus Bryce, but he throws so hard it gets off balance. Yeah, exactly. So if Ilya makes a mistake and Charles starts to really get his timing, he could grab the back, he could grab a guillotine. There's a lot of things that could happen there. Oliveira looks so slow in the Chandler fight in boxing if Topuria's speed carries over. So the thing is that Oliveira also had 2 shot knees in the Chandler fight. So in my opinion, it's really hard to judge him off of that fight alone. I think his grappling is mostly untested, yes. So if Oliveira is able to get Topuria down, we have no idea what's going to happen. And we have no idea what's going to happen if Oliveira shoots. Like Topuria could have the same level of takedown defense, but Bryce Mitchell is not at that level, so. Topuria has bad cardio when he grapples. So I don't think this Zalal fight is necessarily a fair comparison because of the fact that it was so short notice. Like, given the circumstances, yeah, of course he's going to gas out. And the reality is he still made it into round 3 before he really gassed. I think this fight depends on what game plan Oliveira brings. I think it depends on what both of them bring, to be honest. So excited for this fight. Yeah, same. I think Charles is also significantly slower than Max and Volk. He is slower, but he hits a lot harder. I don't trust Charles's chin. If he gets clipped, yeah, he's gonna go out. Bro, your John Jones video is disrespectful. Yes, I have zero respect for John Jones. If you don't like that, you can get out of here. I do not care. John Jones is genuinely a terrible person. He's a terrible competitor at all. He relies on eye pokes and juicing. So overall, yes, I have zero respect for John Jones. I don't think this fight goes the distance. What round do you think it stops? Probably 1 or 2. Do you think Charles is worth it at plus 330? There's definitely an argument he is. I think if you're going to bet one side or the other, you should bet on Charles probably. Even though I'm predicting Ilya win. Ilya is going to let Oliveira pressure him. I don't think that would be the right move, because Ilya is not really great at damaging on the back foot. I've seen Charles rock too many times. Yeah, that's fair. Who wins the championship rounds, in your opinion? If it gets there, I do think Ilya is going to have slightly better cardio, unless this is a case where, like, for some reason Charles is teeing off and can't get a finish, but I would guess Ilya. Hope Charles smudges the decision using his size. I don't think that's likely. I think that Charles's best chance is getting, like, a late first round finish. Shay's betting on Ilya, so that just confirms that Oliveira wins. Fair. Oliveira said that in the pre-fight press that he isn't going for a finish but the win. I think that is a bad mentality for him in this fight, because I think that to beat Topuria, you really want to finish him early. Ilya should have had a few more fights in featherweight. He used to make bantamweight. Fair. I guess he just felt like he couldn't. The MMA Shea betting curse is real. Fair. Personally, KO at minus 220 is the best bet available. That's fair. Jones is so weird, yes. I think Ilya's worked on the back foot. Well, I think the problem is it's just more so his style that doesn't really work well on the back foot. Even if he's tried to improve it, I don't think he's ever going to generate the same power there. John should have never fought a heavyweight. Yeah, I mean, had he just retired, like, even after the Gane fight, his legacy would not have been destroyed so much. I question Ilya's power transfer to 155. So, okay, I've never bought that the power transfer doesn't work. I think the issue with Conor was just the difference in people he was fighting, and how clean he was landing. Is again, Eddie Alvarez never went out cold in his career, to my knowledge. Conor being able to drop him that easily still showed he had crazy power. When he was landing in Dustin at 155, he wasn't landing as clean, and he was still hurting him. So, I don't think it's really that much of an issue. I feel like people exaggerate how bad Charles' chin is. I mean, he's taken a lot of clean shots. So I don't think it's terrible, but it's not spectacular either. Max was catching Ilya with the left hook consistently whenever he threw the calf kick. Yeah, I mean, Ilya has a lot of openings. How are the odds between John Silva and Diego Lopez out of 100? I would say John Silva wins 90 out of 100 times. Does anyone know who Tom picked for Topuria versus Oliveira? I have no idea. I see Jai Herbert as KO or Damon Jackson as KO. It's possible, but I don't think that if Oliveira loses like that, it was really a game plan issue. If he loses because he gets caught on something moving forwards, fair play. But if he backs up and gets caught, I think that's just really bad game planning, to be honest. If Charles walks forward and uses the clinch and stuff, Ilya's attempt at boxing in the pocket with knees and such, is that the ideal strategy? Yeah, I mean, if Charles can work his way into the clinch and blast knees, that will be very good for him, in my opinion. I love you, Octagon Oracle. Thanks, love you too. When Ilya throws calf kicks, his defense is not there. Yes. Do you think Oliveira should clinch or not? If he can, but he can't just recklessly run into the clinch. So throw on the outside, then get into the inside and blast it. Many of the top lightweights started at featherweight anyway, yes. Didn't Alvarez get stiffed in one? I know what you're talking about. Was he out cold or was he just like TKO'd? I'm forgetting. But that was definitely like way post prime, but I do know what you're talking about. Dustin used to be 195 cutting to 145. Yeah, exactly. He was just going to go out from anything at 145. Aspinall picked Ilya. Interesting. The worry isn't the power transfer, it's Ilya's ability to pressure bigger guys. Yeah, it could be a problem if Charles is really just using the takedown threat constantly. We'll have to see how that goes. Any good MMA YouTubers you watch, Oracle? I don't really watch anyone besides Dan Hardy. I think like Dan Hardy is the one analyst that like I've semi-consistently watched because he says things that sometimes I just did not think of at all. I hope Charles makes Topuria pay for the clear opening he leaves, especially when he throws his hooks where he breaks his base and is sitting duck yet valid. Are there any other lightweights that could beat Ilya in your opinion? I don't think right now. I mean, I think that if Rufy got up there, maybe him. If you want to bet on main events, always bet against Tom Aspinall and Nacy's predictions. Valid. If Ilya loses the aura, then I think half his punch power goes away once you aren't afraid. Fair. Charles wins, I'll cry from happiness. Fair enough. Thoughts on Lucas Tracy MMA? I don't really watch the more like meme type channels at all. So, I mean, nothing against them. If people find them entertaining, just don't personally watch it. Why does no one talk about Ilya's hand traps? Because his footwork is a lot more important, realistically. What's the matchmaking in the lightweight division after this? I mean, it really depends who wins. I assume if Charles wins, he's going to want to get the, Armin one back. Tracy has the worst takes in MMA. Fair enough. I think Ilya can get it done, but if Olives gets it, it'll be like the Justin finish. Yes, I think that if he's going to catch Ilya, it needs to be something like that. Possibly even like, I could see a body shot TKO via knees or something. Would you have favored an Ilya versus Islam? I had Ilya in that fight pretty confidently. What should be Ilya's next move if he loses to Charles? If he loses to Charles, he's going to be in trouble career-wise, because like a lot of his shtick is being undefeated. But if he loses to Charles, he should try to fight Gaethje, maybe? Any idea what your prediction rate this year is? I don't track it, to be honest. When in the clinch, Ilya has to be careful exiting a straight line. Yeah, for sure. Ilya should fight Paddy if he loses to Charles. That's a good idea as well, yeah. The last time Charles got KO'd was against Paul Felder 7.5 years ago. I think he will survive if he gets a knockdown, unless Ilya chooses to submit him. I don't think he's going to get flatline KO by one shot. I think the problem would be, if he's going to get KO'd, would be like multiple knockdowns. The winner of Paddy Gaethje gets a title shot if Ilya wins. Well, Gaethje just doesn't want to fight, it seems. But yeah, if he fights, then yeah. Tracy said Paulo Costa has pillow hands, which I disagree so hard. I think Costa kind of has in the middle. I don't think he hits as hard as people used to think he did, but he definitely doesn't have pillow hands. Ilya's Greco-Roman base poses a problem for anyone trying to cage wrestle. I don't think that it's going to be too effective against Oliveira, because I just don't think you want to get into an exchange like that against Oliveira. The chance of him going for some crazy sub there is just too high. I think this Ilya isn't Bo Nickel. Could still get finished to the body. I think this is a tougher fight than the Islam fight style-wise. Yeah, I agree. By the way, Oracle, how's your day, mate, or night? Not bad. What about you? Ilya's pretty smart and his game planning is solid. He is smart, yeah. Thoughts on Andreas Gustafsson? I mean, Gustafsson is entertaining. It's just like, it bothers me the fact that someone can run forwards with their chin straight up in the air, winging wild hooks and win the UFC. But like, it is entertaining, so I have mixed feelings about it. Remember when Costa landed the wheel kick on Whittaker and his rocks rose? I don't think that fight was necessarily as one-sided as people remember. Like, Whittaker definitely won, but I don't think round 2 was like that far off or whatever it was. Bo Nickel has some pretty good rants. Valid. Were an Ilya's coaches, he fired the ones who game plan for him. Yes, that is going to be interesting. I don't assume it'll be too big a problem, because I think his brother's going to just fully take over that role at this point. But the fact that they had a lot of input in his game plans previously and now they're completely gone may be interesting. Do you watch The Weasel? No, I don't. I watched him in the past, and then it got kind of not to my taste, to say the least. Yeah, looking forward to his card as well. I mean, Ilya is well aware of... I'm assuming you're just saying Oliveira is dangerous. Yeah, it's more of a question of can he adapt his style fully. And again, I would lean towards him being able to do so, but there's no certainty here. Can Charles submit Ilya? You take Ilya's back and choke him like it. It's very possible. I mean, I'm not confident either way. Whittaker v. Costa, was that one-sided? I'd have to relook at it, but I don't remember it being that far off. Do you watch Guru? Not consistently or anything. For some news stuff every once in a while, but not really. Ilya's brother is the only one that talks to him in the corner in Georgian. Yeah, I think that his in-between fight adjustments will be basically the same. It's more so the initial game planning, that's the question. Have you seen Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit? What's your thoughts on it? Like who should have won the fight or something else? If DDP can make Hamza cry in a press conference, I want to go stats. Valid. Oracle, you became my undisputed favorite when you replied to me during UFC 316. Glad to hear it. What's your MMA Mount Rushmore? It depends what type of Mount Rushmore you're going for, is if you're going for people who like made MMA what it is, it's very different than like, oh, what's your GOAT list? But like if I'm going for like proper Mount Rushmore, I guess I would say Royce Gracie, GSP, McGregor, uh, and then after that, I mean, you could say like, I guess you could say Ronda Rousey, as annoying as she is, and you could say like, there's a lot of people who could fill into like those last slots and would be feasible. Like who should have won it? I remember thinking that Condit should have won, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. Did you see the open workout from Ilya and Grum and mimicking Charles? I did see part of it, and the fact that Ilya got caught by a head kick is a little concerning if you're rooting for Ilya. That was a little strange. What happens if Ilya wins? I mean, it really depends on what happens afterwards. We need a 2-hour breakdown on Shevchenko versus Shevchenko Grasso 4. 4? Hopefully there's not a 4. Yeah, did you guys see Ilya get caught with the head kick during the open workout? That was very strange. I was thinking the same thing, and Charles in training is doing combos into the left head kick. Yeah, so I said in the YouTube video that the head kick probably wouldn't be an option for Charles because he hasn't been comfortable with like head kicks in the past, or left side head kicks, I should say. But yeah, I mean, if he's been spam training it for this fight, it might be a different story. Who ranks second behind Marab, Dominic Cruz, or Dillashaw? Cruz. Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen the open workout, like Ilya just straight up got caught clean with the head kick at one point, and like they didn't put any power on the head kick, so it's not like he got hurt, but it made it very questionable for his head kick defense. I feel that was to prepare him somehow. The head kick is always dangerous if you land it. Yeah, of course. I think Ilya will probably be fine. It's a close stance matchup. Yes, that's what I was thinking as well. But if he is heavy focusing on the head kick, if Charles is heavy focusing on the head kick, then it's possible. Can you pull the clip up? I genuinely don't know where it was in the thing. The open workout is not short. You might have to go through the full thing to find it. If anyone can find me the timestamp or something, I'm willing to pull it up though. Volk and Max both tried that kick, and Ilya is fine both times. Volk and Max did a very, very bad job at disguising it though. So if Charles were to throw it randomly after a bunch of other things, that would be the chance to get it. Land it, whatever. Ilya going to get done like how Weili got head kicked as possible. What do you think of Ilya going 5 rounds? Dustin Poirier being Islam going 5 rounds with Dustin Poirier being a massive favorite. I think that Islam is not quite as good as people think, in all honesty. What do you think of Jeff Neal versus? I have no idea what that is. Oh, Protos. I think Jeff Neal has a much better chance than people are making it seem, because he can fight blitzing forwards and Protos cannot fight moving backwards. What do you think about Ilya's confidence and how he says he will finish Charles in the first 2 to 3 minutes? It's possible. It's just, I don't know. Like Topuria definitely could finish the fight in under half a round. It's actually kind of the best chance for him to, because Charles does get clipped early, and Ilya is very, very dangerous early. But what happens if he hits the further, like round 2, is going to be more the question. I'm stamped at 150. Okay, let me see if I can grab this. I'm not going to be able to show much of the actual video, or YouTube's going to throw a fit, but I'll try to bring up the specific timestamp whenever. Uh, so it's 150, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right here. Yeah. What is Octagon Oracle's favorite type of girl? That's for a different stream. Maybe when I start streaming more consistently, we could talk about that type of stuff. Where's the Prime Izzy versus Imavov? I'm still taking Imavov. I think that any version of Izzy has problems with Imavov's speed. I have the clip open. Yeah, I don't know what he was even thinking for this defense here. Like, he just didn't do anything. I not that, again, Charles is like a master at setting up the left kick, so it'll probably be fine for Ilya, but how can Charles win? Please give me hope. I push Ilya back and land something as you're pushing him back. Focus on a lot on the teeps and low kicks. If he can batter the body a lot with the teeps while pushing Ilya back consistently, stuff will open up. In all fairness, I just don't think Ilya was expecting Grum to randomly shoot a head kick there. I mean, why wouldn't he be, though? Because if we're looking at like the sequence before this, yeah, Grum's already throwing low kicks, so it's not like there was just like, oh, out of nowhere we're throwing a kick. Like, it was definitely like, okay, we're throwing kicks for you to defend. So I don't think that's just a surprise thing there, to be honest. Can John Silva take over lightweight? It's possible, but I think he's going to stay at featherweight because Rufi's at lightweight. How do you think Ilya's offense will... I don't know what you're saying there. How will Ilya deal with the guard? I think he's just going to go around the guard. I don't think he's trying to split. Who do you think if they had to fight, John Silva or Rufi? I would say Silva. Why is Guram so bad at fighting? I think that Guram had way too much hype. I think that Guram, if people didn't see him as a prospect, would have had a better chance because he would have known he had to improve more. Looks like he was just throwing leg combos, walking him down for the sake of showcase. If he hadn't shown so many issues with the head kick before, I would give him some leeway. But when he's gotten caught by head kicks badly twice in his career, I mean, I don't know. Do you think Marab's gas tank is genetic? Or do you think there's a different explanation? I think it's 50-50. I think that he's probably focused on cardio a lot, but there's also definitely a genetic component. Okay, so for the person who asks for reviewing the footage, I will probably do that next stream. Just because I am losing my voice, and you probably do not want that when I actually review your tape. Who wins Prime for Prime? I have no idea who you're saying. Do you think 100 where he is as good as he was made out? I mean, it's really hard to know. He only had one performance so far against a short notice opponent. We need to see another fight. How far could an average fighter get with extremely good game planning? A good game planning can turn an average fighter into a good fighter, and a good fighter into a great fighter. It can move you like one step up. Can you consistently develop skills to punish better fighters in a short period of time? It'll take you some months, but yeah, you can definitely do it much faster than anyone thinks. Are you going to do a live stream for 317? I've been thinking about it. I'll probably start doing those for fight nights though, because then it's easy for everyone to be at like the same place synchronization wise. Otherwise, with like delay and such, it becomes a problem. But I am going to start trying to do fight companion streams in general, and if everyone starts liking that, then I will start doing pay-per-views as well. Have you ever thought about posting on TikTok? Yes. At some point, I need to get to that and just cross posting over platforms. Mainly just been focusing on the YouTube recently, though. Do you train Oracle? You seem to know your thing. It's pretty fun watching. Keep it up. So I used to train a lot more than I do now. I have, long story short, maybe I'll go into more detail at other times, but I have like some medical issues that kind of stopped me from taking stuff too seriously, unfortunately. Bets for this card. I mean, basically anyone I said with high confidence. How do you think Dustin versus Ilya would go? I think Ilya would get him back against the fence because Dustin is very prone to backing up, and then Ilya would probably land there. In the future, are you planning on leaning into more betting algorithms or tools for fighters? So, both. So to give a quick update there, since I know I haven't talked about it in my stories for a while, the tool for the fighters is in alpha right now, and I'm probably going to switch it to beta soon. I'm hoping to have that live kind of like in 2 to 3 weeks. It may take a little more depending on how long I have to make the beta. But let's say in a month-ish, just because. The betting algorithms and such are also there, and like it's a good way for me to make some money and at the same time like buy time for me to focus on other things. Right now I want to improve both as much as possible, but since the tool for fighters is not live yet, I need to put more focus on that for now. Even Prime Dustin, I would still pick Ilya. Any thoughts on the strange judging recently? I think that, okay, there's always going to be a question of corruption versus judges being idiots, and I think the problem is it's basically impossible to tell, because there have been like the weirdest decisions, even where there's nothing at stake and like there's no reason for corruption. So I genuinely don't know. Looking forward to it. Sorry to hear about your medical issues. Thanks. What body part do you prefer using as a weapon? I'm very elbow centric. I had dreams of competing too, but I came home with a headache and was like, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to give up my future for this. That's valid. Yeah, not everyone has to compete. I need whatever cell the motto is on whenever judging valid. How could we improve judging? I think it has to be more standardized. So there has to be like, okay, like a knockdown is this many points, like a hard strike is this many points, and there's always going to be some subjectivity, but like I think you really have to make a point system to make it uniform. What would you say your most confident outcomes of the fights this week are? Top 3. Let's see. I'm gonna say Diniz, Smith, obviously. Maybe Cortez, honestly. I think McKinney should definitely win this as well. Dariush is an underdog. Van is an underdog, or not an underdog, but close odds are solid. Pantoja, I'm pretty confident as well. Yeah, actually, maybe like Pantoja over Cortez. You know, what's my conspiracy? They allowed the 12-6 elbows for Jones. It might be possible. Do you think AI has a place in judging? I mean, AI, I think that may be like a standardized system that's just algorithms that see what's happening and judge that way, maybe. But I don't think like AI that's like watching the fight will do anything. In top 3 UFC baddies, that's for another stream. NA should be the standard round score. I think that, yeah, we do need more leniency in how many points are given or not. All right, my voice is definitely going, so I'm going to start to wrap it up here. But thank you all for coming. I definitely enjoy streaming, so I am going to hopefully work towards doing multiple streams per week. I will see you guys soon. Have a good night, everyone, and enjoy the event.